Welcome into the MP Nation podcast. I'm your host, Mark Schlereth, along with the immortal. It's right, the immortal
Matt Brown. Yes,
Matt
sir.
Brown. How do you get the nickname the immortal Matt Brown?
It's tattooed on my stomach.
Wait a minute, you didn't nickname yourself, did you? Because that's a douchebag move, right?
That is a douchebag move, yeah. I was just talking about it the other day. So it actually came from being on my stomach, and I didn't want a nickname, but a promoter gave me the nickname because he seen it on my stomach. It's better than the.
What do you mean? It's
nickname.
tattooed on your stomach?
Yeah.
You show me that. Yeah. Immortal.
Yep.
Okay, but who gave you the nickname?
Well, I mean, I put it on my stomach, but I didn't want it to be my nickname, right? But the promoter just announced me as the immortal, and I was like, "Hey, asshole!" But it turned out to be okay. Everybody started calling me that after.
The immortal. So why did you put immortal on?
It's kind of a long story. So I come from a background. I did a lot of drugs, alcohol, partying. I actually died from a heroin overdose when I was younger. I had a few other close brushes with death. Some of my friends, we were just sitting around partying one day, and they were joking around, and then they was like, "Dude, you're fucking immortal, man. You can't die no matter what happens, And it kind of just stuck in my head from there, and then it kind of meant a little more to me after that, right? Like, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, man, I want to live my life like that. I want to be immortal, So it was kind of, I could go on about the meaning about it. I've thought about it a lot. Obviously, it's stuck on my stomach. So
right.
But that was the original, where it originated from.
Okay, so how does one go from being, a partier, doing drugs, just kind of living that lifestyle, to having the discipline to be one of the top MMA fighters in the world?
Yeah, I think they're actually probably not as. There's probably a lot more parallels than you would think, right? Because when I did all that, I took everything to the extreme. That's just the person that I am. But the main problem really was just I didn't have a direction in life. I didn't have anything. I wake up in the morning, I didn't have anything that made me say, man, I want to do this today. I had no desire, no hunger. So what do you do when you're a young kid that takes everything to the extreme? You go party. I actually wrestled in high school. I played some football in high school and things like that. After school, it started becoming like, okay, do I want to go sweat with the guys, or do I want to go smoke a bong and hang out with some girls, right? So, it became a pretty easy decision later on. I could go pretty deep into that. I've always been really open about it, and I talk a lot about it, and I try to inspire others that went down that same path. I want to bring other people up. I mean, I think that's a huge part of life. I think that's one of the most important things you can do in life is improve those around you and be an inspirational person rather than just be a fly on the wall.
Right. No, I think that's important. I think it's great that you do that. Tell me how you got into all of a sudden going, okay, I'm not going to party anymore, and I see this, I see the ring, I see what MMA has become. How does one all of a sudden, because I look at you guys, and I think you're freaking crazy, right? I look, and I played football for a living, and I watch what you guys do, and I'm like, that's great. Like, I understand boxing, but all of a sudden you're doing this and you get a knee to the jaw, and I'm like, where the hell did that come from?
That's what I like to do is put knees on the jaw.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, how does one all of a sudden decide, damn, that's cool, I want to do that?
I couldn't tell you, to be honest. I never heard of the sport until I was like 22 years old. I've been in lots of street fights. I loved that. That was what I used to love doing. I was a redneck. I would just get drunk and do some some blow, whatever, go fight. Like, that was my game. That was what I loved doing. One day I went to a fight, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a cage fight in my life. It was like you'd see in a movie. There's people smoking cigars, betting on the fights, and they said, "Who wants to fight the champion?" And back then there wasn't no you didn't have to sign up or nothing, right?
Right.
And I stood up. I was like, "I'll fight that son of a bitch. Let's do it." Walked in, and I fell in love with the sport right then. I won that night. I actually ended up fighting twice that night. I did that 2 or 3 more times after that, and man, I fell in love. I just decided, the life that I was going on. My dad had always told me, "Look, you're going to prison. You're going to die young," and I thought, man, he's right. I knew that, but I didn't have direction. I didn't have any other thought process. There wasn't no wake up in the morning like I want to be an engineer, or I grew up in a machine shop actually, and I still enjoy doing that, but there wasn't no desire to do that. There wasn't no just no hunger, right? The first day that I stepped in that cage and I got scared out of my mind, and the dude was trying to knock my head off, I loved it to death, and I never looked back. And I won those fights. So then I went to an actual martial arts facility after that, right? And I thought, man, I need to learn how to really do this. Let's go and actually train instead of just get all drugged up and go fight some people. And that was around the time that they were actually changing the sport. They were it was being regulated. There was
sanctioned
rules,
and everything.
sanctioned.
Yeah.
You couldn't just walk in and be all coked up and fight, right? So I went to a real martial arts gym, and that was when the first time I really got my ass whooped, because I was training with actual high-level pros, and I got the crap beat out of me, and I thought, I love this. I enjoyed getting the crap beat out of me. I thought, this is a challenge, because a lot of people, I think, look at things differently, right? Some people get the crap beat out of them and they walk away. I got the crap beat out of me and said, I'm going to get you next week. I'm going to figure out how to beat you.
So it was a motivational factor for you.
Absolutely.
To see how much better you could become, and if you could go in the following week and beat the guy that just beat you up.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to do this as a public service announcement to you people out there. You're out in a bar, you're hanging out, you're feeling pretty frisky, you see a dude like Matt, you think you can take him. All you have to do is this. Turn around for me right here on the side. You see this right here? You see that?
Yeah,
that means don't mess with that dude, okay? When he's got ears that look like that. Dude, when you're training, like when I go to the gym, and I go to the gym mostly because...
to get jacked like you are?
No, I'm not jacked. I'm fat. You know what I was doing? Here's the deal for me. And this is what totally I screwed up. When you're talking, like fitness and all that kind of stuff, they talk about what was it? What's the big program that everybody does now with Reebok? They do
CrossFit.
CrossFit.
Yeah,
I was doing CrossFat for like 7 months. I got really out of shape. But no, when I'm in the gym and I'm doing those things. And I'm training. I always put the earbuds in, right? And I just kind of get lost, and I get into my 80s music and stuff. Dude, you can't, I'm just looking at that. You can't put an earbud in whatever those things are on the side of your head. That does not work for you.
Certain earbuds I can.
Really?
So actually the earbuds.
Is it pliable? Like that stuff is pliable? Because
Yeah.
it looks as hard as a...
Yeah.
Okay, you can't...
So I can stick regular earbuds in. The Apple earbuds I can't. So when I get a new iPhone, I get screwed. So Apple, if you're listening,
right,
maybe you could change that up a little bit.
Would you guys make some smaller earbud? Yeah. So I was a high school wrestler, and it's, to me, I mean, obviously I played professional football for 12 years and did all that. Wrestling is the hardest sport I've ever been involved in my entire life, and it's not even close. I hated it with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns, but I loved it at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's the most challenging sport I've ever been involved in. But I will tell you this, because I'm pretty. As soon as my ears started even getting a little bit tender, because they start, before it looks like that, it gets tender, right? It hurts.
Yeah, you know it's coming.
Right, and so I instantly put the headgear on and wrestled in practice with the headgear, and that made you... I wasn't like a real wrestler, I was like, even though I was a state champion and it was a pretty
even
decent,
though you were a state champion.
Yeah, even though I was pretty well, it was Alaska, so there's like 7 people in the state. So it was, there wasn't a lot of guys I had to beat. But even that, the real wrestlers looked at me like, all right, that guy is not a real wrestler. Mm-hmm. Like that's a badge of honor, isn't it?
Yeah, some people would never get it. So. Honestly, I respect all men, whether they got it or not, right? But of course, if they have it, okay, that dude's put in some time.
Right.
So yeah, there's a little bit of badge of honor for it. Maybe a little bit of a rite of passage for most people. But some people go their whole lives as great grapplers, great wrestlers that never get it.
Okay, note to you people out there: you see ears like that, do not mess with that guy, regardless of where you're at. Or regardless of how drunk or coked up he seems to be, because that dude will whip your ass. That's just the way it goes. I'm
or
giving
if you just
people.
See me, don't mess with him.
Right, don't mess with him either. 35 years old. You're in this game. You're 35 years old, and the old saying in sports in general is "Father Time gets us all."
Yeah.
Right. That he's undefeated.
So unfortunately, yeah.
I mean, for you got to be. Do you feel like you're at the end of this thing? Do you feel like you're in the middle of this? Where are you in your career right now, being that you're 35 years old, you're a father of 3? I mean, how do you see this thing playing out?
Man, I wish it was easy to just saying no comment.
Right.
I don't really like to think about it, honestly. I guess it's a little more than that, though. It's tough, man, because it does feel different than when I was 30. It does feel way different than when I was 25. But at the same time, I mean, I'm still feeling improvements come that I never imagined. That we always say, we wish that we had the mind we had now when we were 25 and had the youth, right?
Right.
If you put those two together, I'd be unstoppable. So now, what slows me down is my body, but I just got to train smarter. This isn't like a boxing, which is a reactionary sport a lot more. There's a lot more. I mean, of course, it's still a reactionary sport, but boxing is different in that sense. It's not football where it's a extremely athletic. When your athleticism slows down, you're just screwed, right? There's nothing
Right.
you can do. You can't regrow your fast twitch muscles or whatever. This sport that has so many variables that you can make it a lot longer if you're smart. So I'm trying to be smarter. Being smarter is not as easy as it sounds, though.
Right. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, working smarter and fighting smarter. My style is based on pressure, breaking people down, coming forward, not afraid to take a shot, not afraid to take one, to give one. That's not really built for longevity. So I have to be a little smarter and have to learn new ways to implement my game plans, and obviously I have to train a little different. I used to train 3 times a day. I used to not care if my body was beat up. I just didn't care. I mean, the bigger the injury, the bigger the challenge, right? I'd be like, I broke my hand. Let's see if I can punch him with my broken hand. Or, stupid, and I'm learning now. So we'll see where it goes. I don't have any plans for retirement. I don't like the R word. And I don't have any. I just signed a new 8-fight contract. I plan on doing all those 8 fights, in which case I'll have the most fights in the UFC. I have the record for the most fights in history in the UFC, and I want to keep going beyond that too. This is what I love, with a pure passion, a true passion. This is what I was born to do. There's nothing else in my life that I want to do outside of my family, of course. But when I wake up every day, if I was a billionaire and I woke up every day, I would come in here and do the same thing, because this is what I want to do. There's nothing else that I have a real desire to do.
Take me through pregame. I mean, you're walking. I mean, in Brazil, people are taking shots at you. Obviously, I mean,
well,
you kind of. Right. Well, you kind of. I mean, you egged them on a bit, right? I mean, you challenged the people in Brazil a little bit, so they didn't really like you. But for you walk into the ring. Are you nervous? Are you scared? I mean, what is it like? Because I think the majority of us, myself included, and I watch you guys walk in, and I think I'd be scared to death.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't.
I assume it's probably the
keep
same
me.
in football. How you guys do it in football?
For me, I would throw up in a trash can before every game. There's not a game I played in where I didn't throw up in a trash can.
Real story.
True story, because I was so nervous, and more so not about being injured or getting hurt or not being able to compete. I mean, it never stopped me from competing, right? I was always going to put one foot in front of the other, but it was more about letting my teammates down or not playing well, and just the nerves that I would have before a game. And then once I get the first hit, that first hit happens, bam, and we smack helmets or whatever, then it's game on. Let's compete. But up until that point, I would always be nervous. So for you walk into the ring, what's that feel like? Because I think most people, I have to imagine there's a bit of fear. Is there not?
Of course. Anybody that says they're not afraid is either lying or stupid. It's one or the other. Fear is a good thing. I think fear makes you stronger. I think it keeps you sharp. Fear is why I do this. I've always said, if I ever do retire, it's going to be because I'm not afraid anymore. It's because I'm not nervous anymore. That'll be the day that I retire, because that's when it's not interesting anymore. Like if you go skydiving, if you don't get nervous, why you up there in an airplane, right? It's sort of the same thing. You do it for the rush, right? For me, I don't really, I do get scared, I get nervous and all those things, but what I've learned to do over the years is to surrender myself to that. I allow myself to feel those feelings. What used to be, this anxiety and these nerves would affect you affect me negatively, sometimes positively, but what I've learned to do is allow these emotions to be there in my mind and just let them go. Just let them be there. They're going to be there whether you like it or not.
Right.
And so what I have to do is surrender myself. So that at that point, by the time I get in the cage, I have a completely clear mind, and I don't care anymore. The outcome means nothing. The fight means nothing. Escaping safely means nothing. I'm literally like ready to die in there, and I don't say that in a foolish sense, like I actually think I'm gonna die. If I actually thought I was gonna die, I wouldn't walk in there, right? Some people say that, taking it to another level, like, oh, I'll fight you to the death, whatever. I probably won't fight you to the death, okay?
Right. That's the same guy that says that is the guy that nicknamed himself Killer, right?
For sure.
That guy's an idiot.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure, yeah, the douchebags.
Right.
But I do walk in with the mentality that this may be the last time I ever walk into a cage. This may be the last day of my life. It is a possibility. Somebody's going to die in an octagon at some point. There is a possibility. So I have to surrender myself to that. I have to allow that to be a reality and not try to change that reality. I have to accept that this is something that truly may happen, and I have to be okay with that. When you can accept that that's okay, then you can accept a loss too. You can accept anything that happens in there, and when you can accept anything, then you can make anything happen, I believe. When I actually feel that feeling of surrender, that's when I feel I perform my best. That's when I feel that all of my mind is completely clear and I can actually perform at my best, and I'm not afraid of, I hit you and you might hit me back, or I might get taken down, whatever. It just doesn't matter anymore.
So, as a fighter, who's the one guy that you watched either growing up or when you first got involved in this game that you admire the most? Is there a guy that you pattern yourself after or admire for what he's been able to accomplish?
So what I kind of do is I used to be like that, and funny enough, Lance Armstrong was one of them.
Right.
Which
turned out
is what it is now, right?
But that sport, I mean, he lied and he didn't accept. Like, you sit here and talk about your drug use and you talk about your childhood, and at least you own it, right? And that makes you authentic. He didn't own it forever, and he ruined a lot of other people's careers.
Yeah.
But that sport was so freaking dirty.
Yeah, he wasn't the only one, right?
Right. But it doesn't excuse him for the fact that he threw other people under the bus and potentially ruined careers. So I respect the fact that you'll own your stuff. But in the fight game, is there a guy that you admired?
A lot, yeah. I mean, I've admired so many fighters. What I do is I admire little pieces about fighters. There's no one that I have taken and said, man, this is the guy. Right now, the closest one now would be like Gennady Golovkin, actually. But in the past, I mean, I'm a boxing historian, man. Like I've read about it from all the way before the 1900s, and there's never really been one guy that stuck out that I was like, I want to be just like this guy. But I find little pieces from a lot of different people. So that's a tough question, I mean, definitely stylistically, there's a lot of guys. And our sport's young too. That makes it difficult too. Right. I would say if there was one in MMA, Chuck Liddell was one that really inspired me when I was younger. But you evolve, and then I feel like I'm better than he was now. Maybe the old shoebox guys, Vanderlei Silva, Shogun.
Right. Okay.
I used to love that Blitzkrieg style. Then come to find out, they were all on juice and, over in pride, so that's why it's hard to say, but I do take pieces from a lot of different, to make a long story short.
So you said you're a boxing historian, and I've got to imagine, I grew up and obviously the boxing game was big, and Muhammad Ali and all that, who just recently passed away, and, for the last 20 years with the Parkinson's, or 20 plus years with the Parkinson's that he had, and I've always been a believer that you can't live your life like, what if, right? What if I develop some type of cognitive issues? What if my football career and the brain injuries and all the things? Because you can't play.
Which I'm sure you fear a lot in football, right?
I think it's just, like, I don't fear it, it's if it happens, it happens. But I wasn't going to live my life like I could pull out of here today and get hit by a semi and I'm dead anyhow, right? So I wasn't going to let my life be dictated by the fear of what if in the future I have cognitive issues. Because I think you do what you do for a living, or you do what I did for a living, you're going to have a certain amount of brain damage. It just goes with the territory, and you've got to decide for yourself: is it worth it? But do you guys think of it from an MMA standpoint? You see a guy like Muhammad Ali and how he, you know, I mean, he did it with grace, but obviously suffered with that disease and, you know, and the repeated damage that he suffered through all the boxing career. Do you think about it? Do you worry about it with a young family, twin boys at 5 and an 8-month-old daughter? Do you think about those things?
Well, first, it was never proven that
True. Right, but there's always the if A plus B,
for sure.
Right, you know, there's always that kind of connection that people try to make.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you see enough boxers that are punch drunk that it's a pretty clear connection.
Right.
I have to question how intelligent they were before too. For sure, you have to worry about it, man. And I actually never worried about it until I had my first concussion a little over a year ago. And man, have you ever had a concussion?
Yeah, but when I was playing, I'm quite a bit older than you. When I was playing, there was no such thing as concussions, right? See, when I was playing, if you got a concussion, you were just soft. So and that soft word is the ugliest and dirtiest 4-letter word in the English language when it comes to sports. If somebody calls you soft, them's fighting words, right? I mean, we're going to throw down. That's just the way it is. And so when I was playing, if you got a concussion, you just weren't tough. You had you're a soft-headed guy, and you're not mentally strong enough to overcome. So the way it's changed over the last 15, 20 years is dramatic. But so I've had plenty of concussions, but never any of them diagnosed.
Okay. So I had my first diagnosed one last year. I probably also had plenty that were undiagnosed because I was the same. I was, in my mind, oh, you got a headache? Well, quit being a bitch and go spar again. What are you talking about? We have headaches all the time. But man, this one, it was very clear, like there was something wrong, right? I mean, I was sensitive to light and sound.
Right.
I was stopping in the middle of sentences, knowing that I stopped and couldn't remember what the hell I was talking about. My wife finally made me go to the doctor when I stood up. I got out of bed, and this was happening a lot. She just happened to be awake once, get up to use the restroom or whatever, and I actually fell over and just collapsed. And then I'd try to stand back up, and it would take me 2 or 3 times to get back up. Like I said, it happened a few times, and then finally she's seen it, and she's like, "You're going to the doctor. What are you doing?" And to me, I thought, I got punched a little bit. I'll be all right in a week, So anyway, that did make me start thinking about it then. Before that, I never really thought about it. Right. But when I'm talking to my kids and I stop halfway through the sentence and don't know what the hell I'm saying, I start thinking about it. But on like what you just said, it's part of what I do, and I've accepted that, and I have to understand that I can live my life doing what I love and accept the consequences, or I could go get a 9-to-5 and do what I hate and just live my whole life miserable. Right. Maybe the end of my life will be miserable, but at least I lived while I was young. And until I die, I want to live. That's the whole point, right?
Right. No, I mean, I agree with the philosophy. Is there a guy out there? We talked about some of the guys you admired and some of the stylistic, approach that you take from different people's repertoire, if you will. What about a guy out there right now that you can't stand, that you just want to beat the shit out of? Is there a guy?
Man. If I had to pick one, it'd be Tyrone Woodley. He's just a bitch, man. I mean, and it's not so much like I didn't bump into him in the hallway and be like, "Oh, you're a bitch," or whatever.
Right.
Just, man, I have a certain respect for most fighters that get to a high level. I don't. A lot of people say they respect every man that steps in the cage. Whatever. Some people just step in there because they're fools, but so I don't respect every man that gets in there. This guy, he's an athlete, really good athlete, but just not a fighter. And he's trying to be a businessman in this sport, and that's what I don't like. I know that there's some good to it. I know that we have to take care of ourselves as businessmen. I know we need to make money, blah, blah, blah. I understand all this. For me, my motivations and desires are completely different. My motivation and desire is not to make money. And he's one of those guys that comes in as an athlete wanting to make money, period. He's not a warrior.
Right.
If we were living in the I don't know, if we had knights and swords and shit, this guy would be way in the back, hiding in the river. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a true warrior, and that's what I do not respect, and I will never respect, and I don't like that diluting our sport. When I come into sport, it's about being a warrior. It's about proving yourself, being a martial artist, et cetera, et cetera. Guys like this come in and they just make the sport. I say the pussification of the sport really is what is happening with it.
Right, and that's important for you guys. The guys that are truly like got this background, MMA background, these guys that are grappling. That is, we had this saying in the NFL, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. There's nothing worse than the guy that is yoked, right? He is just absolutely yoked. I'll never forget, late in my career, and I'm sitting in my locker, and I'm just in a pair of shorts, and I'm fat, I mean, I got no muscle tone, and it just is bad, right? I mean, I'm in year 12, right? What do I care? I can play. And there was this little muscle pig that came in, and he sat across the locker room from me, right? And he was shorts, probably about 6'2", 295, and yoked, six-pack and everything. And I'm looking at him because you can't not look, right? I mean, he is yoked. And so I'm looking at the kid, and he gives me the, stands up and goes, what are you looking at? Like, you're going to fight me in the locker room, right? Or something. I mean, just ridiculous, right? And I go, listen, no offense. But in my kind of history of this league and what I know about this league, I go, you got too many muscles to be any good at playing football. I mean, there's no way you can be a good football player. I mean, looking like that. And I'm just, no offense, but that's just the way it is, right? I mean, you're a weight room guy. Like, you're a weightlifter who all of a sudden thinks that translates to this game, and it doesn't, right? I mean, what you're saying is you're a businessman or you're an athlete, and you think you're a fighter. Just because you're an athlete doesn't make you a fighter, right? Just because you're an athlete doesn't make you a wrestler. Mm-hmm. It's a different game. And by the way, they cut that guy 2 days later. He couldn't play a lick of football. So I was, a soothsayer. I was 100% right. So I get the sense, just talking to you, that is something that real fighters, it really bothers them, that it's the athletes that all of a sudden think they can come in this game and capture this game. It just doesn't work that way.
For most people, it doesn't even bother me. I don't bother myself with other people, right? Like I don't care what everybody else is doing. When someone like him, he's getting a title shot right now, coming off of a victory over number 15 or 16 guy. The guy had the flu and didn't make weight when he beat him. His biggest victory is over. It was due to injury. His opponent got injured in the fight. He didn't beat him. This guy got injured, blew his knee out, his ACL. So now he's getting a title shot. So he's a good businessman, right? Like he's accomplished this part of the game. Right? When you got guys like Damian Maia, who just beat me, he's on a 5-6 fight winning streak and beat a lot of guys, but isn't getting a title shot. He's a true martial artist, a true warrior. I love. A lot of people don't like watching Damian. I actually like watching him. He's a very one-dimensional guy, but I like this style versus style. He has one thing he's good at, and that's what he's gonna try to do to you. Either he does it or he don't. Right. If he don't do it, he's probably gonna lose the fight. I like that because I'm a martial artist purist. I'm a fight purist. I like pure martial arts, pure fights, pure skill. These are the kind of things I enjoy as a fighter. A lot of people, they just want to see a bloodbath or whatever, and I'm cool with that too. I love a bloodbath too. Thurman Porter boxing match last weekend was one of the best boxing matches I've ever seen in my life. It was an amazing fight. But this guy, he's when there's guys like Damian or even Neil, in here, Neil Magny. I mean, he's on 4-fight win streak right now. I think he lost to Damian, won like 7 in a row before that. And they're not even talking about him in the title shot, right? He just beat Hector Lombard, who 90% of people beat Hector Lombard and get a title shot off of that. I'm just, again, like we were saying before, like I'm the type of person, look, this sport, if I wasn't making a dime, I'd be in there doing the same thing.
Right.
90% of these other guys wouldn't be in there. there'd be 20 of us rather than 500 of us. We'd be in there fighting each other all the time because we love fighting. All these other people, you know, they would be out being, you know, fucking lawyers or whatever, you know what I mean, or working at Hooters or something, you know, whatever they do.
Right. Is there a really large, I mean, the discrepancy? You talk about the money, the $4 billion you're talking about selling it for, but is there a real large, like, I just don't know, discrepancy between the haves and have-nots, the 2 or 3, you know, superstars who are making boatloads of cash, and then the rest of the guys that are fighting, grinding it out?
Which I assume is the same in all sports. That's how it is in boxing. I don't know if it's like that in football. I know you guys have a union and everything, so it probably changes that, or a players' association at least.
Yeah, but
which changes it a little bit.
On a roster, and I always call it the 80-20 rule, where 20% of the guys make 80% of the salary cap, and then the rest of us are fighting, you know, and the general public can't understand it when you say, hey, we're fighting for scraps, that guy's only making $1 million, and people go, wait a minute, I go to work every day and make $60,000, I hate my job, you know? Yeah. So it becomes a little bit clouded, and people hate you talking about the money aspect of it. But yeah, there's certainly the haves and have-nots, I think, in every sport.
But also these people that are making $60,000 a year also probably didn't put in what players put in either. A lot of people, I didn't realize how much what football players put in. I did a tour of the Broncos facility out here, and they were telling us about the daily routine. They come in and have to get up at 6, 7 in the morning, be there by 8. If you're late, I think you get fined, right? And then they have to be on weight every week, certain players at least. In there till 5, 6 o'clock at night every night. I mean, these guys are putting in real time. I thought they just played on Sunday and were crazy good athletes, I guess.
Right.
I don't know.
No.
I mean, I know the time that I put in, and there's nobody, you know, these people that are making, you know, these 9-to-5 jobs, whatever, that are making less money than me, they're not putting in what I'm putting in. You get in what you put in life, and if I made less, I would still, if I was making $60,000 a year and I was doing what I'm doing, I would still be happy. Like, I wouldn't be complaining that people are making more money. I'm doing what I love, and I think people forget a lot about doing what you love is what's important, right? It's not just about you know, making money, right? Money doesn't buy happiness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, happiness doesn't buy Lamborghinis either, but I think we were just talking about that. But yeah, you know, it's everybody's going to complain about money, right? I mean, you see this, but you know, you guys, I guess what we're getting at, so you know, you guys start at like $400K, right? That's where you guys
somewhere
are
in that,
I think $400K,
450, something like
which
that,
is a pretty decent living for most people.
But ultimately, it is the entertainment game, and if you are entertaining people and you're doing that stuff, I mean, it's just, look at anybody. At the top of your profession, if you're great at what you do, and there's a scarcity of people that can do that, you're going to make a lot of money. And that's just the way it is, and you can't hate people for making big, you know, there's a lot of doctors and other people that make boatloads of cash, and you can't be angry at them for it.
And what do the doctors do? They go to 8 years of school minimum.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not easy school. I mean, you get what you put in, and I think every real businessman sees that. Entrepreneurs see that. You know, of course, you have to know yourself too, and you have to be intelligent and not put a bunch into something that you're not going to get anything out of.
Right.
If that's, you know, I'm a capitalist, man, 100%. So
as am I.
Yeah. So there you go. You know, if you're a socialist, then yeah, you might think that life should be fair and everybody should make the same amount of money, and then everybody ends up poor. But you know, for me, I'm a capitalist, and I believe you put in the work, you're going to get something out of it.
All right, let me ask you a couple questions, because we got a bunch of people here that
got a ton of them
have tweeted in to the Muscle Farm, at Muscle Farm, also at I Am the Immortal, which is you, correct?
Yes, sir.
So here we go. We're going to just take some fan interaction right here. Will you be the UFC welterweight champion one day?
Yes, sir.
And what is it going to take to get that done? I mean, where's your next fight? Who's your next fight?
Jake Ellenberger, right? UFC 201.
201.
Yeah. Atlanta, July 30th. And yeah, so first step is beat him.
Where are you ranked? Are you 7 right? Where are you?
8.
Eight right now.
8,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to be a little bit more corporate to get that chance, or it's just about whipping everybody's butt they put in front of you?
Well, I'm not going to sell out who I am.
Right.
For nothing, for no amount of money. I'm gonna be who I am, and if that makes me get a title, if that helps me get a title shot, and I get rich off that, that's cool. If not, then I'm gonna still stay who I am. More importantly than anything else is to teach my kids, you know, the way to live as an adult and as a warrior and be a fighter in life. So if I go out and sell myself out and just start talking crap and I get a title shot off talking crap, that's not teaching my kids the right way, and you know, and they'll end up, you know, little shits in school. So you know, I got to prevent that. So you know, the title, a lot of people ask me about this. The title isn't what's important. The title is exactly what they call it. It's a title. It's not it's just it's simply a belt saying that you beat one person, right? Tyron Woodley wins his belt. It's not because he worked his way up to get it and beat out the division and then beat Robbie Lawler. That means he beat Robbie Lawler. And most of the time, that's what it means. That means you beat one person. My goal is to be the best fighter that I can be personally myself. If that gets me a title, then that means that I'm a very, you know, happy about that, and of course I'll be happy, but it doesn't, that's not the ultimate fulfillment.
Right. All right. A best feeling in the world outside the cage?
Well, it'd have something to do with my kids, I'm sure. Yeah, just probably my 9-month-old daughter when she smiles at me when I walk in the door. You can't beat that. I mean, you know, most 9-month-old babies don't even respond right now. I've found that out. I didn't realize that, but most don't even respond the way she responds. I walk in and she knows it's me, and she's happy and starts crawling over towards me and laughing. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
That's okay. Apparently, you're a metal fan.
Yes, sir.
So best metal album. Best metal album of all time and best metal album of the year so far.
Of all time? Woo.
Who's your favorite band?
Ooh, that's another tough question. It changes all the time.
Okay, well, growing up, who's your favorite metal
best band growing up was Pantera, 100%. I'm sure you guys listen to that in the locker room at football all the time.
Are you kidding me? Come on, dude. I'm a child of the 80s, man. I'm in the
there you go.
80s alternative, you know, the Smiths and Smithereens, and a bunch of crap you probably never heard of.
I know the Smiths.
Okay, good.
Best album this year? I'm not even sure what else come out this year. Probably, I think Black Dahlia Murder had one this year, which is probably the top one this year. All time, Fear Factory, Obsolete.
I don't even know what that is, but I'm sure it's pretty good. All right. Well, the immortal Matt Brown. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
You're going to take me in the cage and show me a few things?
Oh yeah. What do you want to learn?
I want to learn how to strike somebody in case you know, in case somebody gives me some grief at the local. It's not the local bar. Where do I hang out at? The local burger shop.